Hey guys, Rominating Reaper here. So it's a lovely Saturday afternoon, so I best to spend it in the cinema. And I'm about to head in to see the rarest of things nowadays, an actual theatrical comedy. Yeah, I'm about to head in to see The Naked Gun. Watched the original last week to prepare for this, and yeah, it's a very funny movie. And the trailers for this have looked very funny as well. Obviously, Liam Neeson is in this, so I'm hoping that this will deliver plenty of big laughs that we've been missing from the big screen. Fingers crossed. But the only way to find out is to head in, get some snacks, and get seated for The Naked Gun. Rest in peace, Superman Standee. It was fun while it lasted. Alright, let's go get that Smurfs popcorn bucket for shits. Alrighty, here we go. So I've got my popcorn here in the Smurfs popcorn bucket, bowl full of funnies, and a red frozen Fanta, colour of the police squad lights, ready for Liam Neeson's take on the police squad. So, The Naked Gun. I'm back from seeing it. This is directed by Akiva Schaffer, one of the members of The Lonely Island, also director of films like Hot Rod, Popstar Never Stop Never Stopping, and Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. The film is also notably produced by Seth MacFarlane, so that's some real solid comic pedigree to bring the Naked Gun franchise into the modern day. You know, especially now that it's that rarest of things, an actual theatrically released studio comedy. And with a lot of comedies having gone to the small screen in the wake of the rise in streaming. So if there's anything that can bring them back to multiplex audiences, it's obviously got to be Naked Gun. But is this a winning comedy that lives up to the high bar set by the original films? Let's find out. So the film follows Detective Frank Drebin Jr., son of legendary police squad detective Frank Drebin. Frank finds himself in hot water after he recklessly steps in to stop a bank robbery, and so as punishment he's forced to investigate a car crash. But he soon discovers that the two cases may in fact be connected. And so, with the fate of police squad on the line, Frank, along with crime novelist Beth Davenport, who has launched her own investigation into the case, finds himself in a race against time to get to the bottom of the case before a sinister plot can unfold. Obviously, there is a high bar to live up to with Naked Gun. The writing of David Zucker, Jimmy Abrahams, and Jerry Zucker is incredibly sharp and efficient. They packed their scripts full of gags, which were sold by the note-perfect, deadpan comic delivery of Leslie Nielsen. So obviously there's a certain weight on Schaffer and MacFarlane's shoulders to live up to that. But credit where credit is due, they pulled it off. Now obviously this being Naked Gun, a very famous spoof franchise, there's a sort of inherent silliness built into that, and yeah, Schaffer and MacFarlane really get that. They fully understand the assignment and really commit. They're not just copying what Zucker Abrahams and Zucker did. They're taking the spirit of those comic stylings and bringing it to the modern day as they spoof modern action movies. Whether it be a riff on overly dramatic action movie title cards, or a scene that is very clearly a parody of a scene from Mission Impossible Fallout, and Talking of Mission Impossible Fallout, Lorne Balfe does the score. There's definitely those familiar sounds in there, but he does a really great job of bringing the Naked Gun Police Squad theme to the modern day. Obviously, yes, the story is, it's fairly simple, but it is engaging enough to watch, but it just breezes by thanks to that 85-minute runtime, which is just packed full of gags, which is where the film really shines. It's packed full of like really cleverly placed sight gags, whether it be the recurring coffee joke or a or a scene with a claw machine joke. Of course, there's some really great physical comedy in there, like a scene with a automatic police vehicle, or the body cam scene, or a hilarious dream sequence involving a snowman. This thing is packed full of jokes that really hit the mark. It is frequently and consistently very, very funny. Now, admittedly, some of the reference-based humor doesn't quite land, notably a Janet Jackson Super Bowl joke, but this thing hits the mark with such frequency and accuracy, man. The laughs are frequent and they are very, very big, I almost forgot what it was like going to the cinema to see a comedy and just, laughing along with a big crowd. Like, there's a real drought, and, Schaffer and McFarlane really capitalize. But of course, I think what really makes it work is, of course, the leading man himself, Mr. Neeson, as Frank Drebin Jr. Neeson, much like Leslie Nielsen, is a primarily dramatic actor. He's stepping into comedy and just effortlessly playing it straight. You might remember Neeson's appearance on Life's Too Short. What really made that appearance work was just how fully straight he played it, and that really translates to Naked Gun. All this wackiness is going on around him, and Neeson just remains perfectly deadpan throughout, and that really allows the clever wordplay to sing, notably the man's laughter joke. He is very, very funny. I can only hope that this will be the start of a late career comedy star stage for Neeson. Paul Walter Hauser plays really well off Neeson as his long-suffering partner, Ed. But the unexpected comic highlight is Pamela Anderson as Beth. She is great. She's very, very funny, has great comic timing. She really plays very well off Neeson's deadpan deliveries. But the two of them also have great chemistry, which, really allows us, the audience, to buy into their romance. And of course, the news broke that the two of them are actually dating now, so maybe they weren't acting on the set of this. Yeah, it is the Frank and Beth stuff that really keeps us invested in the central mystery. So it is perhaps a little bit unfortunate that, in comparison, the villains aren't quite as interesting. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some great, great gags with the villains. Notably the guy with crab hands joke. But, for all the sort of fun that Danny Houston and Kevin Durand are having with these characters, there's not really much to them beyond sort of being evil rich guys in suits. But what's really fun is the fact that their whole evil plot revolves around a literal plot device. Like, come on, man. Like, Schaffer and McFarlane they just get it. Like, like that's so inherently absurd and silly that it could only have come from a Naked Gun film, and it is great. But as their sinister scheme involving this mysterious plot device reveals itself, the film's final act kicks into gear, and whereas a lot of modern comedy films lose a bit of steam in their final acts as they basically just become like extended action scenes with some jokes in them, this just really keeps that comedic momentum up. And obviously, yes, Naked Gun being a action spoof franchise. The action does deliver, but what it really delivers on are the gags. There are some really unexpectedly funny moments in here, including an absolutely laugh out loud, hilarious celebrity cameo in here, and some extra treats all the way through the credits as well. In Naked Gun tradition, you stay through the credits, you'll be richly rewarded with some extra laughs, and just it really left me with a big smile on my face. Having had a great time, just and a great laugh with, again, a very rare big studio comedy. Overall, The Naked Gun really lives up to the comic spirit of the original films, packing itself full of consistently funny gags, sold by a wonderfully deadpan Liam Neeson. Leslie Nielsen, I think, would be proud. Out of 10, The Naked Gun gets an 8. So, let me know down in the comments. Have you seen The Naked Gun? What did you think of it? What did you make of Liam Neeson as a comedy lead? Would you like to see more of that? And what do you make of it in comparison to the original films? Let me know all that down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.